let's bring up our next teller. It's me, in this chair. So my story is everyone's talked about all kinds of crafts tonight. Nobody's mentioned the other definition of the word craft, which are boats. And this story is not about boats. I just wanted to bring that up. Actually, this is about like when as I said, I'm hard, as my bio said, rather, I'm a hard one to pin down. I've never really had what did you call it? Like grown-up money or tucking your shirt money. I've never tucked in my shirt, and I've never had that kind of money because I've never really found. I've bounced. I've done a lot of things. I've been a chef and a bartender and whatever else was listed, a Lego collector, and I spent 2 years selling collectible toys on eBay. It's how I made my living, and I've enjoyed all of these things, like, you know, a whole lot. And when I was young, I thought I wanted to be an actor, and then you know, that third Peter Pan experience, just like, and then I think what I really always wanted to be was a singer, but I don't have the voice for it. I was in a band for like 7 seconds in 8th grade, and they only let me sing one song, and it was me doing my best Axl Rose impression as singing "Knocking on Heaven's Door," and they wouldn't let me sing anything else. But I'd done all these other things, like, you know, be, you know, the chef, and you know, even storytelling, and I love them all. But a few years ago, I was at my great aunt was a docent at the American, I forget what it's called. It's the American Craft Museum or something like that. It's in Manhattan, and she took me around, and we looked at all like the crafts in there, and, you know, and I thought about, it's the idea of doing something with your hands is so nice, but it got me thinking. Is that, like, what is the thing that I have always, like, felt like was my craft? And I've really, amongst all of those things, when I've been doing all of those other things, the thing that I do as like my hobby is that I go see music as much as I can. You know, I try to go see concerts all the time, and I love it, and I love being inside a room where live music is playing and being part of that. And like when I say a lot of concerts, I mean like a lot of concerts. Like, well, I took my girlfriend to her first Fish show up in Portland last summer, and it was like we were on the way there, and like she knew it was a big deal because she knew I really liked the band. But then, like, somewhere in the car, or even maybe in the walk to the auditorium, I was like, "You understand? I've seen this band over 300 times." And she was like, "What?" Because that's like more concerts than anyone has. You know, like most people have seen of anyone, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg. So I just love. I love the music, and if there's a craft of it, you know, like I think that's the thing that I've spent my whole life, trying to get really, really good at. And there's that quote in White Man Can't Jump, when they're like, you can't really hear Jimmy. Well, I can fucking hear Jimmy, and then I get like that guy, and I'm like, you can't hear Jimmy, and like, it's just because anytime I'm in that room and it's like, I like with a guitar or a trumpet or a saxophone just blaring at me, I want to be in the front. I want to hear the music like hit me as hard as possible, because I think that, to me, I know it's not for everybody, but for me, that's how it's like part of me. And that's how that's actually when I feel like I'm doing the most that I've ever done, like I'm in action more than I've ever been in those moments. So it's a weird feeling to do something which a lot of people think as like a passive act, or not a passive act, but just like a chill act, and think of it as my craft. And I was trying to figure out like how that happened, like where did that come from? Because I grew up with this overbearing Jewish mother who really liked Barbra Streisand. That was like my it was like my go-to. Like, I know all the musicals, which doesn't make you like, how does that transform into like a love of Fish and Led Zeppelin and Arlo Guthrie and all of those things? So I don't know. Like, I've spent so much time thinking about like my like origin story, right, of who this amazing music listener, if I was a professional anything, I think I would call myself a professional listener. And where did that come from? And I realized, I think if anything, it sort of came from my grandfather, who was a wonderful man in many, many, many respects. But I think you often don't realize where, like, that the littlest seeds or whatever, like, make the huge tree. Is that an expression? It is now. Because he was a great storyteller, and he was a great man, and all of those things. But he also had this thing that I didn't understand at all growing up, which was he loved opera, and I didn't understand opera at all, because I didn't understand the language, because it was mostly in Italian, and I didn't understand, like, it's like just the sounds were so foreign to me. But it was on all the time. And I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house growing up when I was like little, and from like the ages of 4 to 12. And I think it has to be like, that's the only thing that I can come up with, is that there's this opera that is so gargantuan and expressive, and so high and so low, and there's such a wave that like somehow it must have like seeped into my body, while my grandmother was making me farina. This opera was playing, and just like got into my skull, and then just came down into my heart and my soul, and just laid there for like, I don't know, whatever, and then, did that seed tree thing that I was talking about, that you guys are all going to reference in your next college course. But I think so my origin story is messy, but I think that's really just like the thing that I need to own now in my life, is that that's okay. That like I'm not gonna ever feel 100% at home in the kitchen or behind the bar or even up here or even hosting, or telling stories, or all these things I love. I'll never feel as 100% like I'm pushing things forward in as I am in the moments where I'm in front of the music, and I feel like being part of there, being in front of, being the audience, makes it possible for the music to happen. And so I like, if that's the greatest thing that I ever get to do, I'm cool with it.